Okay, so the recording is in progress. While I'm recording, I'm not going to be able, and while I'm talking, certainly, I will not be able to be cognizant of what's going on in the chat, just so you guys know. But if you have questions, drop it in the chat and I'll make sure we cover it during this webinar or afterwards. So quickly about Action Together New Jersey Education Fund. We are a 501c3 nonpartisan nonprofit charity. I will not go into it too much. Just go to our website, atnjef.org, to learn more about us. But the main mission of what we do is to educate, engage, and empower New Jerseyans. And tonight, that is exactly what I'm hoping you will get after tonight. We do have initiatives. As you guys know, we are major in voter education. There is a primary coming up. We have elections in New Jersey at least twice, 2 statewide elections, twice a year, every year. It's just like going to the dentist. It happens twice a year, every year, so make sure you vote. You can go to this link here to learn all about our closed elections and what a closed primary is. We had a need this year that a lot of our membership really wanted us to focus on. And the need was, how do we recruit, train, and support Board of Education candidates? One of the main solutions that we have is tonight, and it's under njboe.info, where we do webinars that are open to the public. This webinar is the last one in our series that started in January. And this is the last in the series of the public webinars, because after this one, we will pivot to our vetted candidates in our 2023 Board of Education program, and we will have tailored training for them in a private setting. So I'm hoping that everything that we've taught, and we've had all these tremendous experienced speakers tell you about up until today, I hope that you will carry that with you and then join our program and help us with Board of Education candidates. We could not do this without our monthly sustaining members. We started this back in October. So this whole entire year-long program running from January to November every year is only possible because of our sustaining donors. So I want to thank our donors for sustaining us. They are wonderful. And if you are not a sustaining donor yet, please, if you find this of value, become a sustainer at $10 a month. Our goal tonight is for you to learn how to successfully run a campaign for the Board of Education. That's really the goal. And you're going to hear from 2 wonderful people who have the experience to do it and to talk about it. But please note, and I have to say this very clearly, this webinar does not replicate or supplant board training provided by the NJSBA. In fact, we're not associated with them at all. We are an independent nonprofit, and we are not associated with any political parties either. And this webinar and our work in school boards is strictly nonpartisan. So with that, let me tell you about our wonderful speakers. Nicole Ruffo is a graduate of Syracuse University, photojournalism and history. Her experience in education is extensive. Not only has she taught, she's also has a master's in education. She's a mom of 4 children who are, they're younger. So she's always in the car driving them. And a lot of you guys will identify with that. Part of her extensive resume includes serving on the West Orange Special Education Parental Advisory Council. In fact, I think 1 or 2 of her children have severe allergies. I have a child with severe life-threatening allergies as well. And Nicole was able to enact new policies within her school districts on food allergies. So I think that was really, really amazing. Our other speaker is Miss Terry Trick-Scales. By the way, I met both of these women while Terry was running for the Board of Education in 2018. That was the first time I met both of them. Terry's educational, professional background is extensive, but listen, in the audience, I don't want you guys to think you have to have this exemplary background to run for the Board of Education. Clearly, Terry's a standout here. But she's got 38 years in the Montclair Public Schools, including all positions, elementary, middle school teachers, assistant principal, director of curriculum, assistant superintendent of schools. She's also won awards for Miss Black New Jersey and New Jersey Principal of the Year. Again, you don't have to have that type of resume to run for your Board of Ed. I don't want you guys to think that. So with that, I want to introduce our two speakers for tonight. And thank you so much, Nicole and Terry, for your time. We welcome you and we're so glad to have you.
Thank you so much. WIN and Action Together New Jersey was such a great, helpful organization for us back in 2018 when we were running our first campaign. So I really was so glad to meet you then, and I'm so happy that the work you're continuing to do is really amazing. So thank you so much. And I'm going to let Terry start it off since she's the beginning of it all.
Hi, everyone, and thanks so much again, WIN, for inviting me. I thought I was done, but I guess
Never.
from the Godfather, they pull you back in. But it's my pleasure to talk to aspiring board members. I got on the board, I could say, from making a wisecrack, and I have to explain what that is. Most people either pursue a seat on the board or they're recruited. Mine was sort of a combination. I had been invited to the West Orange Board of Ed meeting because at that point in time, there was a superintendent that the majority of the community would like to see gone. And so NJEA and the teachers union were looking for folks to come out and support. And I was currently president of the Essex County Retirees Education Association. So I said, sure, I'll come. I live in West Orange. And during the meeting, I'm standing in the back and things were going off the rails. And I said something like, oh my God, I should run for the Board of Ed. And I should not have said that because people heard it. And for the next few months, folks were asking if I was serious about it, and I wasn't when I said it. But I quickly realized that I might be able to be a benefit. And so that was how my journey started. And just to tell you a little bit else about me, I lived in West Orange since 1984. My husband was the first African-American principal in West Orange, but my life was in Montclair and we didn't mix. So I didn't interfere in his business with the Board of Ed in West Orange and the school district. And so other than knowing people through him, I knew very little about the school district. My son didn't attend school in West Orange. So I was really coming in almost like a newbie as far as learning the district. But I quickly surrounded myself with some folks who knew what was going on. And I guess we'll get into that a little bit later. But that's how I ended up running for the board. Making a joke. I just finished taking a stand-up comedy class. And so jokes do get me in trouble from time to time.
But it's always good to have a sense of humor, right?
Oh, you have to have a sense of humor if you're going to be on the Board of Ed. Absolutely.
It definitely made the campaign trail so much more fun having Terry along with her humor. So Terry, do you want to mention about how the campaign team was kind of formed and
Sure. I wasn't sure how far you wanted me to go. So I had taken a course once I decided I was going to run for the board. I took a course offered by, I guess, by Rutgers, and they talked about forming your kitchen table conference group. And so what I decided to do, because I did not have a campaign manager, I decided to pull people in to my home. And so I had refreshments and wine. And so I had a few teachers that I had met. I had a former board member that I had worked with in Montclair. I had a couple of friends, and we just sat around and brainstormed, okay, what does the district need? It's really important to start from there. If you're going to run for the Board of Ed, then you need to know what niche it is that you're going to fulfill. So in being able to talk to the teachers, they were very insightful as to some of the needs. I did a lot of homework. I looked at end of year reports that had been published by the administration. And so we kind of came up with maybe 4 or 5 points that I needed to focus on. And as I said, I did not have a campaign manager. And so I was doing a lot of the work myself. I was getting the meetings together. I was buying the food. And you don't have to buy food, but that's what I thought would draw people in if I fed them. And if you feed them, they will come. But looking at the key points here, you don't need any previous experience. That is certainly true. I came in with a wealth of experience, and sometimes it worked to my disadvantage because sometimes I knew more than the people who were making major decisions. If you have a passion about education, that's the number one thing that you need. You need to have a passion about education and about kids. You need to be concerned about what's going on in our country right now. And being organized, that's certainly very, very important. But I think that Nicole is going to get into some of those other points. And then came Nicole. I forgot to mention Nicole. And so I'm looking for a campaign manager, and I'm asking all the people on my team. I had a treasurer. I had someone who was going to do PR for me. I had all these key people, but I didn't have anyone to pull it all together. And so one of the key people that I was working with, she said, I'm going to find you a campaign manager. In the meantime, I had already begun to start making these little living room chats. I had been invited to a couple of people's homes, and so people were gathering, and I had my 5 talking points. And somewhere along the way, Nicole, you saw me at one of those, right? Did you meet me at one of
Yeah,
those?
well, the first time that I met you, I think, was at another campaign event for someone else. We were introduced at Cindy's event, I think.
Okay.
She was running for town council. And someone said, this is Terry Triggs Gale. She's might be running for Board of Education. And I just got so excited because I have, 4 children in the school district, 3 with life-threatening food allergies, and there was a lot of work to be done. And the idea of a qualified Board of Ed candidate coming along when we knew that we would be in the process of selecting a new superintendent was very exciting. So that was like in May. That was just planted in my head. And then it was July. And I remember because I was coming back from a lake vacation with my kids, and this key person that Terry mentioned called me and was mentioning the need for a campaign manager. And I'm thinking, I've never been a campaign manager. What does that even mean? What does a campaign manager have to do? I have no idea. But like it says in the key points, like no previous experience necessary for sure. Being organized, key. And basically, if you can run a household, you can run a campaign, and you can be in a campaign. So for me, it was like a 911 call, and Terry was the answer, and I was willing to figure it out as I went, just to help her campaign. It was that important at that time. So, when it says that no previous experience needed, we talked about that. I mean, basically, you just have to have an interest for wanting to see good things happening in your district. And you're going to learn as you go. I mean, in this job is something that you're going to talk to people, they're going to tell you what's important in the district, and you're just going to become a sponge for information from all sorts of people. And you just need to listen really to the people who are talking to you about what's important. And you'll do research, obviously, on the district, just as Terry said, because she wasn't someone who lived in West Orange, so she even had to do the research.
I lived in West Orange. I just didn't know.
All right. You lived in West Orange, but you hadn't known the school system, right? But I love this quote I came across recently from a woman who wrote a book about running for office, Senator Marian Walsk. And she says, there will always be people in any arena who know less or know more than you, and know less or know more than me. And the question is, do I care enough? Do I know enough? And am I willing to do more of both, more caring and more learning? So I think that, you know, anyone who's involved in this, that's all you have to do. And again, if you can manage, you know, run a household, you can definitely do this. It's really about being organized and saying yes. Once you said yes, forget it. You're on the path, you're going, and there's no turning back.
Right,
Um,
and I just want to mention, the whole campaign is fun. It's
Yes.
it's fun. Nicole and I have become fast friends. She's like the daughter I never had. And we worked as a team. And if you get a campaign manager who is as devoted as you are, then success is certainly attainable. You know, it's hard work. Not going to
Yes,
diminish the fact that it takes a lot of time and a lot of commitment.
yes. And actually tonight, getting ready for this event, gave me some reminders of that time, because it was in 2018. So my children were 5 years younger, and they are now, you know, at that point that they were like 6-year-old twins, an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. So they were young and they needed a lot of help. And it was like, I remember so many times making dinner, knowing that I was going to an event with Terry, leaving a mess and not caring, my husband being in charge of the rest, my mom coming to help, like it took a village for all of it, but it was a lot of fun. And I've seen campaigns that didn't have a team and didn't have a lot of people involved, and they still, some of them got elected, but I just think it was less fun for them. They didn't have the people to celebrate along the way, and also to call when there's a problem, and then to celebrate at the end. And then being organized is definitely key. You definitely want to have a calendar and checking your email and social media on a regular basis. I think for me as a campaign manager, the to-do lists were key for what's happening today, this week, this month, and then going on to election day. And keeping contacts of, you know, everyone that you meet, just like Terry said, that the people she thought about in the community is really important. So having, you know, a list of everyone that you're meeting, and organized email list that you can send out. So you have an ability to email your core team and then a larger group of supporters when you need. And success is attainable, as you can see from Terry's success right here, sitting in front of us, that she won.
Hey, if I could just stop for a second.
Yeah.
I just want to, for our audience, catch them up on where we are, because I apologize, but I'm handling the slide advance and I'm not getting the cues. So I'm hitting the slides in the incorrect times, and that's my fault. But I want everyone to know, if you've listened from Terry and Nicole, neither one of them had prior experience, and they just cared. And that's really the crux of the message here. So you will have to learn about your special school district and what is needed. But tonight, we're going to move forward with the slides, and you will see they will give you the ingredients that you need to run a campaign. And if you're part of our 2023 candidate cohort, we will walk you through all of these steps along the way. Okay, so they're going to give you all the ingredients that you need. You still have to figure out, what is it about your school districts? What are the problems and how you can provide the solutions? But tonight, I'm hoping that you will hear from two people who have never done it before, but was able to do it successfully. Okay, thank you so much for that. Go ahead. Let's start with the 5 ingredients.
Yes. So the 5 ingredients that we have listed here are your leader, your campaign manager, marketing, definitely having the social media campaign materials, your core team, your kitchen table team, community connections, and financial requirements, which all of those come together to make a successful campaign. So we'll start off with the campaign manager, so we can go to the next slide. We are on that one. Yes. Okay. So the most important thing that the campaign manager and candidate can do in the beginning is, again, make a list of everyone that the candidate knows in the town, everybody from the person at the deli, every person they come across, and just keep a list of people that might want to help in the campaign, because you never know where someone might want to help. Identify people, just like Terry said, who have encouraged you to run for the Board of Education, and think about people who would really be willing to help in the campaign. So when you're looking for this campaign manager, hopefully I checked all these boxes, but really thinking about, is this person reliable? You want someone that will, when they say yes, that their yes means yes. It is good to have a campaign manager who's good with social media because that is such an important way to communicate with the voters right now. Also, just knowing who do I know who would be good with finances, forms, and following election guidelines, which is the campaign manager and treasurer's job. So important to find that. And then also who really wants me to win. I really wanted Terry to win. So I was willing to do whatever she needed above and beyond during that time. And then also who has the time commitment. And no one really has extra time, I know, but again, during those months from July when I said yes until November when she won, it was just a lot. It was a roller coaster of fun, of drama, and it was just about making the time and saying yes and going forward.
Right, and I just wanted to mention too that as I had said earlier, things had begun to roll with my campaign when Nicole came in. And she was God sent. She came in and just picked up where we were and just took us to greater heights. And the social media, I mean, I have learned just about everything from her because that was not my forte. But she was able to just get us out there. We reached so many more people that way than, you know, what we had done up to that point. And as far as making the list of everyone you know, that's key. Making the personal contact. That's really, really important. I went to every event that was going on in town. I'd go by myself. I just go, and I'm not that outgoing, but I was walking up to total strangers, introducing myself and letting them know, you know, that I was running. So it's all part of what you have to do to make that personal contact.
And before we move on from this slide, can you address the last bullet point before we move on?
Yes, so 2 things. Pick someone who's organized, thoughtful, and knows that you are the final say for all campaign decisions. So when it came to any decision with Terry, she was the final say. So anytime there was a post, I wanted her to approve it. Any wording in any social media, any decision we made, she was the candidate. It's her candidacy, so she had the final say. And then also great advice is not having a family member as your campaign manager. You're going to need your family enough supporting you through the ups and downs of a campaign. So just don't choose your family member to manage your campaign.
You know, that last one is great advice. I love it. That's wise.
And then once you have your campaign manager, and you can see these pictures of us at work, you can see, we can keep this here while I'm going over just some questions that you can go over with your campaign manager when the candidate and campaign manager come together. Are just reading up on the job description. So knowing what the Board of Education job description is. When is the election? What is the date? How long is the term? Is it a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year term? Who is on the current board? Who else is running? And that you find out, you know, sometimes after you decide to run. Is an incumbent running? Is there a team, a slate running together? Talk to people in the town who have run and served before. And I'm sure Terry can talk more about that. You know, just asking people who've run before how big their team was, how much money did they raise, what were about the costs that they had, and then asking them if they can introduce you to anyone who could also give you more good advice. Finding out if it's a partisan race. Most of the Board of Eds are not partisan, but it is, some races can be. And then how many people voted in a similar BOE election year. So when you are running, it depends who else is running and how many people will show up. For example, in 2018, when Terry ran, there was about 48,000 people in West Orange, and she received 8,320 votes. That was a year where we had a Senate race, a congressional race, a county executive, sheriff, mayor, town council, and Board of Ed. So it was a pretty stacked election year, and a lot of people showed up. It was a big year for voting. Just to give you an example of 2 other campaigns that I've managed, 2020, which was a big election year, obviously with the presidential election, congressional and town council and Board of Ed, Melinda received 10,865 votes, and that was her just running against one other person. And then in 2021, Brian Rock received 8,130. That was a smaller year with just the governor, state senate, general assembly, and sheriff. So it does matter who is running, what year it is. Check that out.
And
So you
I-
can see it. Sorry.
I
was
want to
just-
add that if you are a candidate in our cohort, our research team researches all that information as far as the number of votes for you.
Right.
Nice.
And I was just going to mention that West Orange is very unique in that we have a 5-member board. Many districts have 7 and 9. So it's important to know, again, how many seats are up and how many people are running. That makes a big difference, who your opponents are, whether it's a friendly campaign or a not so friendly campaign. But the numbers are very important, as Nicole just shared with you.
So on to marketing. You can watch the previous Zoom on legal and political matters, which talk a little bit about what you can include. But having your campaign literature is key. And what Terry came along right away with was a gorgeous headshot that we could use on all of her campaign materials. And she also had an incredible person who designed her logo and gorgeous graphic design, which again, you don't have to have. Don't make that a reason that you're afraid to run, because you can design your own on Canva, super easy. You can make really nice election materials, but a great headshot is super important. And then also just creating campaign literature that includes your website, social media, any contact information ready to go. Just like Terry said, you know, when she started going to events and had this with her, she could hand them out to people as she was going. Social media, and this was where my photojournalism came in, was just take photos everywhere you go. So I remember the day Terry called me and said she was going to file to run at the county clerk's office, and make sure you take a picture. So take a picture of everything you do and everywhere you go on the campaign trail. Many people won't actually see you live on the campaign trail, but they will see the time and commitment that you've made through the images that are shared on social media and shared you know, on your campaign materials. Definitely have a Facebook and Instagram account that is simple and easy to remember. So I think Terry's was Terry for BOE. Send Facebook page invites to all contacts, everybody you know, asking them to like the page and asking them to have other people like the page. Share on your local Facebook groups, but understand that some pages have election posting guidelines. So just be familiar with them so that you don't post somewhere or sometime that you shouldn't post. And then make sure you're always taking photographs of yourself with community members at every event you go to, but always ask permission for posting a photo of anyone in a group setting, because someone, if they don't want to be on your campaign social media, that would be uncomfortable to have to take that down. So just ask people before you post. And then also it's nice to have someone with you to ask for taking photographs so that the candidate doesn't always have to do that. And then my biggest message, and this was wonderful working with Terry, was just keep all messaging and interactions positive. Like, people want to see a positive campaign. They want to see what you're going to bring to the community. And it was so easy to do that with Terry, with her experience and just who she is. And that was my first experience with that. Anything you want to add, Terry, to that?
No, I think you covered all of that very well.
Okay.
CN.
So we did a little website, and websites aren't required, but they are sometimes easy to make if you make them. Like, basically we bought the Terry for BOE on GoDaddy, and then we just use their very free and inexpensive website designer. On the website, you know, we included her bio, headshot, blurbs of endorsement from community members, the campaign calendar, and then places where the people could submit if they wanted to volunteer for the campaign, and also a link to donate to the campaign. And then also you can have, you know, now a QR code for the website on all your canvassing material, so people can get there very easy. And then with campaign signs, my biggest advice is just to make sure that you order early enough. Most campaign materials that you can order through Canva or Vistaprint or even local vendors, you can have a pretty quick turnaround time. I would actually sometimes, you know, we'd run out of canvassing materials on a weekend, and on Monday I would set a new order to have, you know, a big chunk of them come for the next weekend and I'd have them in time. But lawn signs take at least a month with combined production and shipping time. And sometimes you can, you know, get them faster, but you're going to pay for it extra. And just think about how many you can afford and order early so that they can be in place usually about 6 weeks before the election, but some towns have rules about when you can set out your lawn sign. So just be aware of that. And I do think, and I know Wynn agrees, that lawn signs are very important in an election,
And
especially
make
on
sure-
key roads.
And make sure you find out from the town where you can put your lawn signs, because we put out, I don't know, 15 lawn signs, and I came home one afternoon and they were all on my front porch. And couldn't figure out what happened, but we had put them in an area that was not allowed by the township, and they had collected them and returned them to me. So really important that you check that out. And one other thing that I just wanted to share, oftentimes candidates order palm cards that they hand out on the day of the election. Those are virtually useless. I think I still have a box in my garage. I work the polls also, and people, you put them in their hand and they put them directly in the trash. So that's not the most efficient way to spend your money. So spend your money before you get to election day. On election day, it's a little too late to hand out material at the polls.
If I
Yeah.
can interject regarding printers or lawn signs or campaign material, we at Action Together really recommend our candidates to use union shops and
Yep.
local print shops. And we have a list of vendors that we will provide to our candidates. We really believe in supporting local print shops.
Yes, that's a great idea. And the greatest thing about that is that you can make a great relationship with the company, and they're very willing often to do things for you pretty fast, and there's no shipping because you can just pick them up.
That's right.
So just so you can take a look at some of Terry's campaign and her logo and campaign materials. So that was her logo, and that was one of the door knocker signs that we made just as we would go around and canvas and leave them on people's doors. And then
and I don't know if the candidates know this, but you cannot put campaign literature in mailboxes. That's illegal.
yes, yeah,
And that is why Nicole is recommending door hangers.
yes. Yeah, the door hangers are great. They go right on there, and you don't, and if they didn't have a door that would hang on, we would just like slip it underneath their doormat or something, just put it somewhere where it would stay. Especially we canvassed on some windy days where it could fly all around because it was the fall. So you can see the lawn signs there, and you can see the canvassing materials, us on our canvassing routes, holding them up to show.
How many houses would you say that you canvassed?
I have no idea. 5 years ago. Hundreds. Because we
Yeah,
also partnered with some other campaigns, so we were working together.
Right. And I should interject that your campaign, Terry, is in a very competitive district. It's not one of those in other parts of New Jersey where you can just fill a petition and be done with it.
no.
And and get votes. You really had to campaign, and this is why we had you on, because you run the whole gamut of what is traditional in a partisan campaign, right? That we're seeing at
It
the
looks
Board of
very
Health.
much like it, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the core team, the kitchen table team, and this is something that you're going to grow from your little group. So I was welcomed into Terry's group with already this kind of 5 to 8 people that she had found, which was so nice. From that list that Terry, thought of all the people she knew, she chose 5 to 8 people or more that were very invested to be part of her core team. And, in this situation, you can let people share their comfort levels with community engagement and their skills with you. And then after speaking with each person who is willing to help, you can ask how they would like to help the team. And then, the candidate and the campaign manager can identify who is right for the positions and, who would be best serving in different roles. And ways that can be very helpful on a campaign are social media and communication. the treasurer, which I would say is very important. And we had a wonderful treasurer couple who worked with us that was super helpful, and had a beautiful treasurer binder that they kept everything very organized. A volunteer coordinator, because people are going to want to volunteer, and you don't want anyone to ever say, oh yeah, I'd like to do something, and not know where to put them. So definitely giving people jobs. Canvassing coordinator, campaign material distribution, data entry, and also election day organizing, because on election day, we had people from the team at all polling sites to, hold signs up, to say, vote Terry for Board of Education, just little things that we could do to get out the vote that day.
Oh, just
And,
interjecting there though, but you can't do it within 100 feet of a polling place.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So 100 feet, but you can get 100 feet is actually quite close. You're like in the parking lot usually when people are getting out of their cars. So you kind of get them there. And it is a weird situation. It feels a little weird to be in that place. Some
And-
people actually, though, were happy to meet Terry at that moment.
Yeah, and in West Orange, you might have a person from each candidate running for town council, for Board of Ed. So it would be like a group of five or six people standing there greeting everybody. So you will certainly be told where the 100 feet mark is. They
Right.
will, yeah.
Yeah, and our election day was full of drama. First of all, it was like a very wet, rainy day.
Pouring
So
rain, yeah.
So
pouring-
definitely be prepared for anything that can happen with weather, and especially on election day, it's grueling from 6 a.m. until 10 o'clock at night. You're going to be going strong that day. And just to be looking at the weather ahead of time so that you can order ponchos for your team if you need to, so that you can have anything that's waterproof. The one cool thing that did happen with the rain was our lawn signs, which were made of plastic. When I'd parked my minivan next to the polling site, I was able to just take these plastic lawn signs and stick them all over my minivan as we were waiting at a polling site. And our goal was to get to every polling site in the day. Terry and I did that, and we did it. It was we hit our goal. So we made it to all the places. And you can see in this picture, this is our campaign team. This is when we finally knew that Terry won, and we can explain that later, but it was a celebratory night and with all of our t-shirts on. And there's our campaign team at Terry's launching event, which is really a beautiful event that Terry had that showed how many people in the community were supporting her. And that was early on, I think it was August 1st. And just some team meeting at Panera. So Panera Bread seemed to be an important place for us to meet on election conversations.
Right, and I want to go back to the, talk about the kickoff, how important that is, to invite as many people as possible. And what we did that night was to collect donations. And so as folks came in, there was no charge for them to come, but we wanted them to be able to make donations on the spot. And we did very well that evening, and that was all organized. Greeted people as they came in. This is my personal thing. I kind of went overboard in planning things before Nicole came on board. And so, and even when Nicole came on, it even expanded, but we had to have a theme. We had to have color coded everything. We had banners, we had balloons, we had t-shirts. But I think it really made us a cohesive campaign team, and everybody felt really vested, and everybody was really involved and committed to put in the hours and to put in the work. And it was a great experience. And none of these people really knew each other or had worked together, but we ended up being like a family, and we're still close to everybody at this point in time. And we didn't talk about who was running at the same time. I think that's important. I just want to mention that.
Mm-hmm.
There were 3 candidates running for 2 seats. And you see the young man in this picture sitting next to me. He was one of the candidates, and he's a teacher. And so we ended up kind of campaigning together. I'll say that tongue in cheek. But we kind of teamed up. So it was the 2 of us against the other candidate. which made for a very interesting kind of dynamic. And we'll talk a little bit more about endorsements and things like that later.
So we have less than 20 minutes left. So I think we need to speed up a little bit going through these slides, because I do want to get to the chat. And there's really good conversation there and a couple of questions. So go ahead and let's move a little bit more quickly through the slides.
Yes. Okay. So with community connections, make a calendar and attend all events possible, just like Terry said. Always bring your campaign literature with you, events to attend, sporting events, concerts, Board of Education meetings. Please do not run for the Board of Education if you've never been to a Board of Education meeting. I think that should be a prerequisite. It's just nice to have been to one before you decide to run. Parades, town halls, fairs, volunteer events, library events. Neighborhood block parties are wonderful if you can be invited from someone on the block that can introduce you to everyone on the block party. That's a great way to meet people. Also, back to school nights are a great way to be outside the school, handing out your campaign literature and have people, at each school if you have multiple schools on the same night. And then just always be aware of the rules of when and where you can pass out the campaign literature. Just being approachable and always having your campaign materials available. I think the most important thing, and I watched Terry do this, is just listening to community members regarding their hopes and concerns for the school district when you're out on the campaign trail. And then, of course, keeping, like we said before, a record of everyone you meet and how they can help you in the campaign. And just making sure that if you meet someone, you have a chance to follow up with them, logging the interactions, and just getting a chance to reach out to them to see how they want to volunteer, and then matching them with one of the volunteer roles that we talked about. And hosting a coffee meetup is a great way for them to invite people to their house so that you get to know another community of people. And that's where you can help and identify and meet with the key groups in the community. So you'll see that there's lots of local and active groups, and you might want to try and meet with one person of the local group, and then have a conversation with the one person and ask if they can hold a larger listening session, coffee talk with the group for you to introduce yourself. And examples of those groups are, again, it's very important to meet with groups of parents from each school in your district. The Special Education Parent Advisory Council, CPACs, they have them in all school districts. Community members in retirement homes and assisted living residences, educators in the community, students, environmental clubs, you get the picture. There's lots of people to meet with. Elections are one in person. Walking the streets and meeting with as many community members is key. So door-to-door canvassing is the most powerful way to get out the vote. And if possible, try to have someone who lives in the neighborhood walk with you. It's a nice way to get to know the people in the neighborhood. And just make sure that you visit each neighborhood in your community. You might not get to every home in your district and your town, but make sure that every part of the district of the town is heard and visited, so that no group or neighborhood is left out. And then thank you notes are a great way just to connect with people. They can be a simple text message and email, but just thanking people for their time and any money given to the campaign, that really matters. Okay, next slide. I'll show you, this is just a little example of, I kept a Google calendar and then also had, this calendar up on our wall, which had all of our events that we were doing. You can go on to the next slide.
The color coordination there.
Yeah, with our campaign. And this is Terry being the star that she was at every coffee meetup, just sharing who she was and what she was about to a group of parents from one elementary school. And this is her both doing listening and asking questions. So she's listening to a group of parents from the Special Education Parent Advisory Council. And then she's also asking a question, I think, at the Board of Education meeting. She could have been making a comment too, but that was way back when, so it's hard to remember. And then financial requirements. So you can definitely watch the previous Zoom about election requirements that Action Together New Jersey had, and then open a bank account, complete your elect filing within 10 days, keep receipts for everything that you purchased on the campaign, and keep them organized. They must be documented. And again, a treasurer binder is my favorite way, type A, just put it together somewhere easily to organize, or a folder. And then just make sure that paid for by the campaign are on all campaign materials. That goes for lawn signs, buttons, t-shirts, everything that you make for your campaign. And then disclose all in-kind donations. So goods or services that are offered for free or at less than usual charge. Services, event invites, and endorsement materials are also in-kind donations, and then set up your Act Blue or whatever you're using for campaign donations. Financial requirements, done. And moving on to debates, I mean, Terry can speak more to this, but just find out, you know, all the debates in your area, who's leading them. And I think the best way to prep for them is by watching past recorded debates if they are available for you to watch, because you can see what were the hot topics in the years previous.
You know, many of you may be running because you've been involved in the school district, whether through the PTA or some other organization. For me coming in, I had a quick learning curve. You need to know all the key players in town, whether it's the teachers union, whether it's the principals, whether it's the organizations in town that are affiliated with the school district, because lots of the questions are going to come from those areas. So I would just say, become as familiar as you can. Watch videos of board meetings, attend as many board meetings as you can, so that you know what's going on. I was asked a question about locks on the doors at the high school. I had no idea about locks on the doors at the high school. So you can be asked anything. So just prepare, just really, really prep for the debates.
And if you don't know the answer, you can say that, right? You can be honest that you're willing to learn. And then just some things that happened during the campaign that we can go over. So when it comes to endorsements, there was some endorsements, you know, that are kind of every candidate has a chance to apply for, and then some that you have to seek out. So Terry went along and received a lot of endorsements, but we did have a situation that we wanted to share with you where we were endorsed by a group of candidates,
Well, no, the
Yeah.
legislators. I
Yeah.
happen to know a lot of the legislators, and when they found out I was running, they offered me money. And I said, thank you. And little did I know that the endorsement was going to come in the way of a flyer from the township with other candidates on it that I didn't personally support. And there was my picture in the midst of all of these other people. So if you get an endorsement, make sure you clearly understand what it means, what it entails, what it involves before you accept it, which was a lesson learned for us. It took us a long time to extricate ourselves from that debacle.
We called it Flyergate. It happened on Halloween. So I say it was like the scariest Halloween of my life. But the way we handled it is, you know, there was a post the next day from Terry just explaining that she was endorsed by many different groups and she was running on her own and not on a slate. Because it looked like she was part of a slate on this campaign flyer that was sent out. It looked like she was running with all these people. So just like Terry said, find out what they're giving you and what they expect from you and what they might use your picture for. And then whisper campaigns. Whisper campaigns happen. People start talking about things. What was the whisper campaign about you, Terry? It was that you wouldn't be able to vote on something because you had been in the union.
Yes.
The superintendent.
It was
So
a conflict of interest. Yeah.
Which was not true, right?
Right.
It was right. So that they started sharing just days before the election, which is kind of problematic, that Terry would not be able to vote for the new superintendent, which was a key reason why she was going to run for the school board, because she was a part of a union and thus she would not be able to vote because it would be a conflict of interest. And that was not true. So with whisper campaigns, they can happen and will happen, and it's best to address them and make sure people know that the truth of whatever it is. Anything to add to that, Terry?
No, because I know we're running out of time. So
Okay. And then the last advice is just be prepared for anything. Anything can happen. Vote, enjoy election day, celebrate the team. And then the next slide just shows that I added this. So with the election results, it took us 1 month to find out that Terry won. About 3 weeks it took. There was outstanding mail-in ballots. It was a really crazy time, and it was not something we expected. Election night, we sat there together and people were like, It looks like Terry lost, and it took us weeks to find out that she had actually won, and it was not what we expected to have, how our ending was, but it was a good final ending weeks later.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I wanted to talk about endorsements really quick, and then I'll get to the chat. And if anyone has questions, if you can hit the emotions and raise hands, I'll make sure that I call on you. On endorsements, so Board of Education races are nonpartisan. So tell us about how is it that you get endorsements? Isn't it then become partisan? Because Terry was on that flyer on a slate with partisan
No.
office ballot.
Well, on the legislators that endorsed me, yes, they were partisan. But the mayor is nonpartisan. He was running at the same time.
And the
So
town council.
and town council. So I ended up on a flyer with the mayor
Right.
and a couple of other council members that I didn't support, all nonpartisan. But the money came from legislators, sitting legislators.
But your endorsement from like the union was the nonpartisan endorsement, and from the newspaper.
Right, and they're in Our Revolution. Was that the name of it? Our Revolution?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
you can seek endorsements or people will seek you out. They can come either way.
But I want people to understand what Terry said previous about endorsement. Know what you are getting for the endorsement, what is being asked of you. It is a tit for tat. They are wanting something, and as long as you're okay with it, then that's your decision. At Action Together, our position is obviously nonpartisan. We understand that you're going to have to know your local conditions, whether or not endorsements is what is going to help you win your race. We're going to leave that up to you. We're definitely not going to micromanage that. But we stress to everybody to keep it nonpartisan. Debbie, you have a question? Go ahead and ask.
This is a follow-up to what you just said, Wynn, and you might have answered it, so you just slapped me in my face if you did. Supposing you get somebody who wants to support you and endorse you, but they're kind of a partisan person, and their endorsement wouldn't be anything on paper, like they would want to give you like a campaign contribution. Is that looked upon then as something partisan, or can they make a contribution to my campaign? Not that I would hide it or anything. The person's name they're going to know who the person is if they look at my campaign report. Can I accept money from somebody like that? Like Terry was mentioning, a legislator or somebody like that. Can we take money from somebody like that?
Nicole, you want to answer that?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you can take money from them. I think it still is nice to ask what it involves, and it's a good question that we learned the hard way. Because anyone can donate to your campaign. I could support your campaign, donate $200 and tell you that I'm a supporter of you. But if this person has a higher level, you just might want to have a little conversation about what that entails.
Okay, thank you.
We have a question in the chat. What's the best place to put my money? Signs, campaign flyers, or mailers? And I think the answer is going to depend on the school district and their location. But Nicole and Terry, for you guys in West Orange School District, of your budget that you raised and you spent, where was it best for you to spend your money?
I think the signs were really important to get your name out there. Just as people are driving, to see it repeatedly. But then, of course, what you can hand off to people is very important. So I think you really need to kind of cover all your bases.
Mailers seem to be very expensive and seem to be, for at least for Board of Ed, that's what we really didn't do. We didn't spend a lot of money on mailing things to people. And it's hard because I'm, at least in West Orange, literally the days and the weeks before Election Day, you all of a sudden start getting a lot of mail from especially the town council, mayor, and then up their elections saying, vote for me, vote for it. It's overwhelming. And I found that going to someone's door or meeting them outside of the Board of Education, like a back to school night, and handing them Terry's flyer was a much more personal way to get a vote.
And I wanted to share this. In order to kickstart my campaign, I loaned my campaign $1,000 with the understanding that if there was any money left at the end, I would get it back. And it worked. I was able to recoup that money, but I needed that money to kickstart the campaign. So I would suggest that you also consider that so you can get those signs and that other printed material ordered right away instead of waiting to raise money.
And
And
that's
the
a-
kickoff event was a very great way of raising a lot of money in the beginning to have for all of that.
And I think that was a really great point, Terry. And if you know, the candidates or people in the room tonight or watching this on recording on YouTube, if you watch the ELEC webinar that we have, loans to your campaign is one of the things that you can do. It just has to be properly reported and reimbursed properly, but that's totally legitimate and legal, and it's really helpful to do. So thank you for that, much appreciated. All right, we have 3 minutes left. If there's any other questions, feel free to raise your hands. We wanted to talk about getting, there's a comment there about donation link. I know that there's other donation platforms out there, including Venmo Business. I think Zelle is one of them, PayPal for sure. ActBlue is another one. So make sure you take a look at that. But the donation link is very helpful because Terry had that up and ready for her initial launch. Did you not, Terry? That way, when people came, they could donate to you, and you have it.
Well, I know we were taking checks. Were we?
Yes, we were taking checks on the night of her August 1st, like kickoff. So we had
Cards? I don't remember.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think that we had the ability to do both, but we you know, got a more substantial link for the website just for people to be able to directly donate as time went by when the website came up.
And then when you
Yes,
take
so many, I mean, this is 5 years ago, like there's so many more things, so many, this sounds like 100 years ago in election world, so.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many more platforms and tools
Right.
out today. But I think one thing that we want to make sure that people remember is whichever way you do go about for accepting donations, whether it's by check or credit card, you do need to collect the information because it has to be reported.
Yes.
And it becomes public information when it reaches the $200 and up threshold in both monetary and in-kind donations, the in-kind that Nicole mentioned earlier in the slide. You have to combine it both. And once that reaches 200 up, it has to be reported. So there's a lot here, but we've got 1 minute and I need to have closing remarks here. I hope that those of you who tuned in tonight, thank you so much for joining us and watching this on recording, that you got from this that you can have a successful campaign for the Board of Education without having any prior experience, right? And I think that the key things are to stay organized, have a passion for why you're running. Why are you running to serve your community on that Board of Education? You've got to understand the local issues, but all the ingredients there, the 5 ingredients that Nicole and Terry talked about, I think those are all the things you can take with you. And I would love you guys to just drop in the chat really quick with 30 seconds to go. What was your favorite ingredient? Mine was the kitchen table team. I think having that network of supporters and everyone around that table who has their supporters and friends, that really is your network there. So I so appreciate it. Terry and Nicole, thank you so much for your time and giving us, we're getting great comments here. They're so appreciative. Tula, thank you for the applause. If you guys want to just take a look at the chat and the thanks there, we so appreciate it. So everyone, this ends our series of public webinars for the Board of Education. please tune in to njboe.info. That's our website. That's where we're accepting applications for candidates into our Board of Education program for this year. It's running now. We're helping around 20 candidates right now. So we're already starting with the headshots. We're already starting with the bios. So just like Nicole said, you have to get those lawn signs early. We will help you with the graphic designs for lawn signs and literature. We will help you along the way. We want you guys to be successful. Again, completely nonpartisan, as long as you agree to our wonderful values of, for example, evidence-based decision-making. I think we all can agree to that. So we would love to have you. So thank you again for joining us, and I bid you all a good night. Thank you.
Good luck, everybody. Good luck.
Thank you. Good luck. Thank you for running.
Thank you.